Good morning. I didn't do one of these last week because I had a bit of a crazy week preparing for the weekend just gone, where I went walking for my 50th birthday, which is tomorrow. And yeah, I just wanted to talk a little bit about the experience, which was completely amazing, but not specifically about what happened, like in terms of the events. We walked for 2 days. I love this thing where you basically get up and walk all day and then you arrive somewhere and then have food, go to bed, wake up, walk somewhere else, and just kind of keep going with the rucksack on your back type of thing. It was incredible. And I was very privileged. Just lots of my closest friends came and it was completely magical. And I'm still in that strange headspace afterwards. And that's what I wanted to talk about. Because I'm really interested, as you know, in this idea that our consciousness changes in different contexts and in different ways. And I've had a very busy year so far, and I hadn't really stopped like that. You know, took Winnie the dog, stayed in kennel, went to the kennel. Isabel's parents came and looked after the kids, and we just had 3 glorious days of going somewhere with a mission, with a purpose, the walk, and then doing the walk in an incredibly beautiful environment. We did the South Coast, just a couple of days of the South Coast path we did Sidmouth to Seaton on the first day, and then Seaton to Lyme Regis on the second. And it's incredible because you've got there were sort of 7 or 8 of us on the first day and maybe a couple more on the second day. And then some people came, family and stuff. I mean, other friends came for dinner that night. And the walks are incredible because you're constantly coming in and out of people's orbit. So you sort of walk for half an hour chatting to somebody and then sort of come together again and look at a view or have a drink, and then you kind of carry on and you end up just sort of naturally falling into a different pairing or a different group of 3, and you talk about something completely different. And there's no sustained eye contact because you're walking, which means, I remember this from when I was running Unbound, that I used to do catch-ups walking because it makes people feel more relaxed because you haven't got sustained eye contact. So you're in this kind of really lovely state where you're physically moving, your brain's going, you're being engaged with this magical scenery. You can hear birdsong and you're constantly looking at wildlife and flowers, and so you're attending to the world in a very different way to normal. And then the conversations sort of begin to change because obviously at the beginning it's like, oh, how are you? I haven't seen you for ages type thing. And then very quickly you find, or I find myself talking about the really meaty stuff of life, like the really important stuff. And I just can't stop thinking about that sense of it being a different part of your consciousness. And this Ian McGilchrist's idea of of the way you attend to the world changes the world. And it just feels so real today, this morning, after such an amazing few days. And friends had traveled a long way to come, and so there's that kind of gift of someone's effort to come. I don't know. I mean, I am very lucky. I have incredible friends, and everyone's so kind and cheerful, and we had such a enlivening time. Despite even the second day, it just rained all day. It was the worst kind of day of walking I've ever done, to be honest. But even that, there was a moment in the middle of the day where we were saying, can we get a taxi? It was so miserable. But there was no phone reception. And there were 7 of us and we were completely soaking wet. So no taxi driver in their right mind would have picked us up. And you have no choice but to go on. And it just made me realize in my life, I don't have that often, where I can't just pull a safety lever with money or a phone call to get me out of the problem I'm in. And you couldn't even get help because there was no one that could come and sort of rescue you. So you just had to kind of carry on. That makes it sound hellish. But there was something extraordinary about that because it made me just think, oh, I haven't visited this way of being myself where I have no safety and I have to just carry on going through this thing, which is, we were just completely soaking. Like we would have been less wet if we jumped in the sea fully clothed. It wasn't cold, and it's not that traumatic, but it just sort of reminded me of how comfortable existence is for many of us, for people like me, for me. So there was something about that too. It was like, oh, okay, I had to dig a little bit deeper. And actually what happened is everyone just got really silly because it was so ridiculous. So we sort of ended up having more fun in a weird way. But yeah, you just think of all these, I don't know, I just keep thinking about, people, will you drink booze to get into a different headspace or to relax or whatever? And I don't know, you're always on the go or something. I don't know, it isn't very profound, but I'm just very much still in that headspace, and I can feel myself being pulled back into normal life where that isn't the daily reality. And yeah, I just keep thinking about our nomadic ancestors, which, as you know, I'm fascinated by. And yeah, I just keep thinking maybe they would probably have been always in that mindset. They didn't really get pulled back into reality because for them that kind of was reality. You were together, figuring stuff out on the move in beautiful environments. We went swimming in the sea in a deserted beach on the first day because it was, so remote. Not that far from civilization, but it's very hard to get to it if you're not doing a very, very long walk. So you end up in these beaches with completely empty. Yeah, so it's total bliss, really. And of course, come home and you're like, oh my God, said Isabel, we really need to do this more. Like, how do we find these islands of conscious? It's like an island of conscious, I was going to say escape, in the sense of getting out of normal life, but it doesn't feel like you're getting away from reality. It feels like you're entering reality, and like what we're doing normally is the bit that's not reality or something. Yeah, I don't know, just very simple, but it just got me thinking about friendship and connection and nature and exercise and such simple things. You can't go into a shop and buy any of these things. You have to sort of get out there. The other thing I was thinking about is we were walking along a place which is an outstanding area of natural beauty, and it's like a heritage coastline and all this kind of stuff. And I found that really interesting, that we give these places these names to protect them. And you sort of think, well, everywhere used to be like that. Everywhere used to be an area of outstanding natural beauty. And there's some kind of some awareness there that we're changing. I don't know, that we're reducing the places where that's the case. But yeah, I don't know. Anyway, sorry, long and rambling one, but it just made me think, got to get out there, whatever. I was worrying about stuff and had stuff playing on my mind beforehand that felt so huge and felt so big and daunting. And none of that stuff's gone away, but I don't feel like that anymore. Now I feel like, okay, there's this kind of place I can go. And I do feel like I need to get my life to a place where I'm in that headspace a lot more, and I'm not being pulled into this. I don't know. It's a kind of psychosis, I think. It's a kind of. Anyway, it's just not the real world that I feel like I've been in for the last 3 days. And it's not a holiday. It wasn't that. It was richer, nourishing, challenging. Yeah. So yeah, recommend it. Walking, people you love through beautiful places. Not an earth-shattering piece of advice, but still there in my head, and I'm now going to figure out how I can keep it with me. How I can bring it in to normality. How I can make that more normal. Anyway, lots to think about. Thanks for watching. See you next week.